Hey, welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. Today's episode is Talk Tips number 45. And the question I got asked was, how do I make virtual conferences, webinars, or conference calls, how do I make them more lively? How do I engage more people? How do they stick around? Check it out right here in the episode. Okay, we've all been there, right? We've all been there in physical conferences and definitely in virtual trainings. 2020 opened up a whole new world of virtual trainings for us because we're all locked away at home, but we still wanted to learn. We still wanted to interact with each other. But you know what? It takes more than cool Zoom and the ability to use it to keep an audience engaged during a talk or during a conference or during an online summit or during an online seminar. And you and I have both been there. We've been to seminars that admittedly are quite boring in person. Those aren't even so much called seminars, they're more lectures. And then we've been to the Zoom meetings that are so boring, where we find ourselves turning off our camera and muting ourselves and going somewhere else. And guys, you want to know how to know if your seminar is really boring on Zoom? If you end it, you mute yourself, turn off your camera, but nobody logs off, that means they weren't listening to begin with. So let's learn how to fix this. So first of all, I want to teach you about a strategy that I use both on the stage and on the digital stage called the state change. Now, this is what this is. You and I as human beings, we want to be captivated. We want to be interested in things. And most of the time, when people deliver content that doesn't go viral, it's not because it's not good content. It might be wonderful content. It's because it's not packaged in a way that's very interesting. It's blasé. There's no reason for us to stick around. So I use these state changes both in person and on my live conference calls to get the audience moving again. There's a whole library that I have of them. Let me give you some examples. State change number one is audience participation. Now, when we're on a Zoom call, audience participation could be very, very simple. It's a put a 1 in the chat if this is the case for you. Throw your hand up in the air if this is the case for you. It does require you to have your cameras on. Put your digital hand up if this is the case for you. By the way, when I'm doing shares, I really like to use that digital hand feature because it lines people up at the top of the Zoom call. That is state change number 2, by the way, getting shares. At the end of my Zoom calls, I love to get gold nuggets from my audience. And I don't do it to boost myself up or make myself think I'm more important than I am. I'm really curious as to what the audience is learning by the time we spend together. Every Friday morning, I host a leadership call for another company. And on that leadership call, I'm teaching principles, I'm telling stories, I'm selling ideas. At the end of that call, I end up about 5 to 8 minutes before the top of the hour. And I'm saying, tell me what your gold nuggets are. In fact, that's why I have this gold brick behind me, because someone said, oh my gosh, I got so many gold nuggets. It's like a gold brick. And they literally gave me a brick. So in these calls, I get these gold nuggets at the end. I ask, what are you learning? What's applicable for you? How are you going to be different for the rest of the day, if not forever, by what you learned today? How are you going to implement it? What's your action step? So I'm asking questions, and I don't ask rhetorical questions, by the way. That's number 3. Don't ask rhetorical questions. Ask questions that you intend to get an answer on, either through a response or a raise of hand or by having people unmute themselves and do a share. Number 4 state change is laughter. Laughter is a state change. It causes us to think differently. It creates an anchor for the content. It tells us, oh my gosh, I like what's going on so much that I'm laughing about it, whether it's a joke or an irony or whatever it is. If you can use humor as part of your keynote or part of your lecture, that creates another state change for your audience. Having the audience really do anything, having them share in the chat, having them get active. This is a conversation. Conversations are really boring if it's just one person lecturing the whole time, which is why right here on Talk Tips, I ask you to put in the comments, what do you want an answer to? In fact, you can pause this video right now. Put in the comments, what's the number 1 question you have about public speaking? One of the blueprint keys to creating an effective keynote or for an effective presentation. I create this blueprint. It's available for you. If you go to mariannehickman.com/free gift, you can download this book. It's the 10 blueprint steps of an effective keynote presentation. Part of that is what's called preceding. Let me give you an example. If I say there are 3 keys to this, or 4 things you need to do in order to do this, or there's 5 steps to this, or your brain is going to be looking for those numbers and it won't be satisfied until it gets all of them. If you're speaking on a virtual conference or even a pre-recorded Zoom and you say there are 3 ways that I'm going to teach you to be an effective speaker, or 3 ways that I'm going to teach you to live a healthier life, or 3 ways I'm going to get you to open up your vocal cords and be a better singer, as you go through, you're going to open up and number those 3 different ways, or those 4 different ways, or those 5 different steps. And our brains are programmed to not leave anything unfinished. So if you tell me 3 steps and you only deliver 2, that's going to be a problem. But if you tell me 3 steps, I'm going to be at the edge of my seat waiting for all 3. The next step in creating engaging content is to use stories. Use your story to bring your point across the finish line and bring it home for your audience. I once had a presenter. We were doing a 50 lives to more stages challenge, where you take the live, go on live video every day, sometimes more than once a day, for 2 weeks straight until you have 50 live videos within that 2 weeks. And one of my members started this challenge. It takes guts to start this challenge, by the way. I remember the first video that was posted was only principle based. Principle 1, Principle 2, Principle 3, and all the comments and feedback that they got were, hey, why should I care? Tell us a story. Tell us how you leverage these in your life to overcome this. The storytelling, I just did it, by the way, is one of the number 1 ways to drive your point home with your audience. The last thing I'm going to share with you are just really basic logistical things. Number 1 of this basic logistical thing is to maintain eye contact with the camera. Trust me, this takes training. You have to, what I do is I look at the camera and I envision someone on the other side, like I'm talking to them, and maintain that eye contact. The other thing is be animated. We have hundreds of words coursing through our body at any given moment, and only a small fraction of those words escape our mouth through linguistics. The rest of them are emanating through our body language. So don't be afraid to be expressive, both with your body language and with your tone. And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. Don't let anything distract you. Don't let the bad lighting distract you. Don't let your broken PowerPoint distract you, because if it's distracting you, it's distracting your audience as well. So get good lighting, get good sound, especially sound, because if you have bad sound, it can actually be physically painful for some people. And then if your slides break, be able to give your keynote or your seminar or your presentation without it. Because listen, the people that are on the other side of the camera are there because they want their lives transformed. They're actually hoping that you will do a great job. They're cheering for you. It's going to go better than you think. Always, 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 here's a bonus for you. Always, always, always ask for feedback. Even if you don't read it right away, ask for feedback on your keynote to see how you can make it better for your audience. That's it for this episode of the Marianne Hickman Show. We'll see you next time.
Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you'll learn something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have this whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions, because you are who I am here for. So last thing is, I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you've got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people, and you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of 400 plus guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.